The Psychology of an Assassin, an analysis of total commitment. Welcome to the Well-Oiled Mind. If you've not been here before, we specialize in history, biography, psychology, and philosophy. We like to focus on these topics within a European context, and we cover subjects ranging from antiquity to the 20th century. Join us now and illuminate your life. Today's video was a quick turn done at popular request and goes to show that with the right motivation, anything is possible. We hope you enjoy. In his book, Wolves, Jackals, and Foxes, Chris Hollington tells us there are three broad groups of assassins. Professional killers working for themselves, governments, or another entity. Amateurs who kill in the name of some cause they hold a deep belief in. And social misfits or outcasts who are seeking notoriety and immortality in their diabolical act and possibly even the manner of their own death. What we want to look at in today's video is one layer below these major categories and dive a bit deeper into the constituent psychological and mental factors that coalesce to produce the mind and motives of an assassin. The psychology of assassins is a complex and multifaceted subject encompassing a range of motivations, psychological traits, and environmental influences. Assassins, by their very nature, engage in acts that most people find abhorrent, incomprehensible, and yet, to our own horror and shame, deliciously fascinating. Understanding what drives an individual to commit such acts requires delving into the interplay between their personal history, psychological makeup, and the social contexts in which they operate. This video will briefly explore the various factors that contribute to the formation of an assassin. Motivations and justifications. Assassins are often driven by a variety of motivations, which can be broadly categorized into ideological or political, financial, and personal. Ideological assassins are motivated by a belief in a particular cause, whether political, religious, or social. For them, the act of assassination is seen as necessary, and it's a means to achieving a greater good or a way of bringing about or perhaps preventing significant change. Historical examples include political assassins like Gavrilo Princip, whose assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand was driven by a nationalist fervor. The words he spoke at his trial are succinct and clearly express his political zeal and aim. He said, quote, "I am a Yugoslav nationalist, aiming for the unification of all Yugoslavs, and I do not care what form of state, but it must be free from Austria," unquote. Financially motivated assassins, often referred to as hitmen, engage in their trade primarily for monetary gain. This practical and cynical rationale can also be combined and compounded by inner compulsions and urges such as being sadists or psychopaths. These individuals might not have any personal animosity toward their targets. Rather, they view assassination as a job that provides them with a livelihood. This category includes professional criminals and members of organized crime syndicates and gangs who are hired to eliminate rivals or threats. Personal motivations for assassination can stem from deep-seated grudges, revenge, or psychological issues. In such cases, the act is driven by intensely personal feelings, often resulting from perceived wrongs or traumatic experiences. The assassins in this category might have a history of mental illness, personality disorders, or a background of abuse and neglect. As we can see, there are several primary reasons and forces that might lead someone to become an assassin, and there's clearly room for overlap. Psychological traits and disorders as contributing factors. Certain psychological traits and disorders are frequently observed in individuals who commit assassinations. One common trait is a high level of psychopathy in general. Psychopathy Is website defines psychopathy as, quote, "a common mental disorder. It is characterized by personality traits that include reduced empathy and remorse, a bold and daring personality, and difficulty inhibiting behaviors. People with psychopathy may deceive, manipulate, exploit, threaten, steal from, or physically harm others. At the same time, they may seem outwardly friendly and well-adjusted," unquote. Psychopaths also sometimes present an inborn detachment, social isolation often as a choice, and a high-order ability of single-mindedness. Psychopathy also describes psychopaths as often wearing a, quote, mask of sanity, unquote, making them highly adaptive and difficult to identify among us. Psychopaths are capable of committing heinous acts without experiencing the emotional turmoil that would deter most people. This emotional detachment allows them to not worry about the consequences of their actions, and it predisposes them to be assassins. Narcissistic personality disorder is another condition that can contribute to the making of an assassin. Individuals with this disorder have an inflated sense of self-importance and a deep need for admiration. Whilst engaging in extremely high-risk behaviors, their narcissism leads them to believe they'll avoid capture. Naturally, the needs and rights of others, including the right to live, are rated far below that of the narcissist. Alternatively, many assassins exhibit traits of antisocial personality disorder, which is often confused with asocial behaviors and disorders, but is different. It is more commonly known as sociopathy. The Mayo Clinic describes it as follows, quote, antisocial personality disorder, sometimes called sociopathy, is a mental health condition in which a person consistently shows no regard for right and wrong and ignores the rights and feelings of others. People with antisocial personality disorder tend to purposely make others angry or upset and manipulate or mistreat others harshly and with cruel indifference. They lack remorse or they do not regret their behavior, unquote. Antisocials present pervasive patterns of disregard for the rights of others and a propensity for deceit and manipulation. This disorder is marked by a lack of conformity to social norms and a tendency to engage in impulsive and aggressive behaviors. Environmental and social influences. The environment in which an individual is raised and the social context they find themselves in play significant roles in shaping the psychology of an assassin. Exposure to violence and crime during the formative years can desensitize individuals to brutality and normalize the use of violence in daily life in seemingly routine interactions, and more broadly as a means to an end for larger scale plans. For instance, children who grow up in war-torn regions or within violent gangs are more likely to internalize violent behaviors as not only acceptable, but even necessary for survival, and thereby intrinsically good. Additionally, social and economic factors can influence the likelihood of someone becoming an assassin. Poverty, lack of education, and limited access to legitimate employment opportunities can push individuals towards criminal activities, including contract killing. In such environments, the line between right and wrong can become blurred, and the pressures of survival can override moral considerations. Cultures that glorify violence can also contribute to the development of assassins. Societal narratives that frame certain violent acts as heroic or as otherwise justified can provide a moral framework that assassins use to rationalize their actions and relegate victims as mere byproducts of progress. For example, in some militant groups, assassins are revered as martyrs or heroes fighting for a just cause, which can further entrench their commitment to violent methods. Now, let's look at two short examples from history. Decimus Junius Brutus Albinus led a conspiracy that plotted against and killed Julius Caesar on 15 March 44 BC. It's one of the more famous and well-documented assassinations in history, although commonly attributed to the other Brutus, Marcus Junius. Decimus's motivations seem to be mostly political in nature, but possibly personal as well. In some, he, like many, found Caesar's growing affinity for ultimate power very concerning. Moreover, Decimus may have also felt that his honor had been tarnished when he was denied a triumph following a military victory, while other leaders had received one. In the end, Decimus and the cohort of 60 conspirators mostly felt Caesar was an existential threat to the Roman Republic and chose assassination as the remedy. They were therefore politically motivated, with support from social conventions like honor and virtue. They made a calculated move to save the fortunes of their state. The causes that piled fuel on the fire that was World War I are legion and debatable. What is not debatable is the spark that ignited the conflagration. That was the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand and his wife and consort Sophie. Gavrilo Princip was a Bosnian Serb who we mentioned earlier, and it was his hand that fired the fatal, tragic shots. While he was politically motivated, as noted before, that is not doing justice to his commitment. A bona fide terrorist and trained by the Black Hand, he was an ultra-nationalist and separatist. The Black Hand supported a union between Bosnia-Herzegovina and Serbia, and felt a direct and violent attack on the Austro-Hungarian elite was the first step. Lastly, Princip had tuberculosis and knew his time on Earth was very limited. This sense of mortality and fatalism, combined with his beliefs, made him an iconic assassin. More recently, 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks attempted to assassinate former President Donald J. Trump, losing his life in the bargain. Given that it is less than 3 weeks since this attempt took place, it's really too early to place this event on the historical record with any kind of certainty. What current information does suggest, however, is that Mr. Crooks seemed to have a general disdain for all political figures of our current tempestuous age. But at this early stage, there are far more questions than answers regarding his motives and psychological profile. To be sure, the FBI are giving his life a full review to develop just such a picture, but we're going to have to wait for now. Conclusion. The psychology of an assassin is shaped by a complex interplay of motivations, psychological traits, and environmental influences. While the specific factors may vary from one individual to another, common threads include a blend of ideological, financial, or personal motivations, coupled with psychological traits such as psychopathy, narcissism, and antisocial behaviors. Environmental factors, including exposure to violence and socioeconomic pressures, also play a crucial role in the formation of an assassin's psyche. Well, that's it. We hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you did, smash the like button and subscribe to us so we can bring you more content, including those hot topics that subscribers are asking for. That's it for now. Keep reading and keep learning. And remember, knowledge is its own reward.